There are things in life that happen to us and around us. Big things, seismic shifting things, things that change the world and life, our life as we know it, sometimes at a global level and sometimes at a personal level, shaking us to our very core. It is what it is. In another life, I worked in New York City. September 11th, 2001 was a Tuesday like any other. I got on my train and got off at my stop at the World Trade Center. I crossed the street to my building and was settling down at my desk when we heard this loud explosion. So my coworkers and I rushed to the window, and we see this huge fireball on one of the towers. What? So at first we think, well, this is Wall Street. There are bigwigs that come to work on helicopters, so maybe it's a helicopter accident. So we're there kind of trying to, what is this? We're trying to figure it out. And then a colleague of mine who was ex-military, let's call him Jim, says something's wrong. We need to get out. We need to get out. So we're like, aye, Allah. So, but then he was a serious kind of guy. So we're like, you know what? Maybe Jim is on to something. So we grab our bags and we're like, okay, let's go down to the lobby. We get down to the lobby, people are gathering, and everybody's asking, what's going on? What was that? What is that? While we are in the lobby is when the second plane hit. And if you remember, the second plane hit low. The impact shook our building so violently that the glass walls of the lobby shattered in. So now there's pandemonium. Now I'm feeling real fear. I remember thinking, I'm going to die. I don't know why I'm going to die. I don't know why that was important, but I thought it. I'm so far from home. What? In all this, people are pushing, shoving, screaming. I realize that I'm next to another colleague. Let's call him Steve. Steve was this big guy, burly, macho guy. So in fact, when I realized it was Steve that I was next to, I felt a bit, okay. So I'm like, Steve, I don't want to die. Steve, Mr. Very big, very macho, very strong man, turns to me in tears, crumbling. I don't want to die either. That's when I knew Quisha. Finished. So now we're shoving, we're pushing, we get out on the street. First responders have started coming, so police are on the road trying to get us to move away from the World Trade Center. Stuff's flying in the air like this is surreal, right? So as we're moving with the crowd, I'm like, I'm in America. Whatever is happening here has got to be on TV. I had a cousin who was visiting from Nairobi, and she was in my apartment. So I called her. I'm like, Jerry, turn on the TV. She was like, why are you waking me up? So now she's bitter. Now she starts smearing me. I'm like, listen, turn on the TV. So there must have been something in my voice because she's grumbling, whatever, but I heard her stomping around, looking for the remote. She turns on the TV. Next thing, she's screaming, Nimo, where are you? Where are you? So I'm like, what's going on? And by the way, as I'm asking, it's not that I'm standing somewhere having this conversation. We're like running on the streets, right? Flanked by people. People are screaming, everything. I mean, it's chaotic. So I managed to get out that they're saying it's a terrorist attack. See, I'm surrounded by people. People have now started grabbing me. Terrorists, which terrorists? What's happening? Crazy. So I'm like, I don't know. So we're moving. I'm like, I need to tell my dad. I can't be having a man having a heart attack in Nairobi. So I call. I need to tell him I'm okay. Hey, mommy. Dad, I'm okay. I'm all right. Oh, Onanie didn't know. Not that they're BSF. Call me later. What? So you know how there's an important message that needs to be communicated, but now is not the time. I was like, let me leave this man in the bliss that is his ignorance. Okay, bye. First of all, I was so surprised. Can't you hear the screaming, the what in the background? But you know what? I was like, you know what? Let me just let this one go. It is what it is. Moving. We get like maybe 10 blocks out. The ground starts shaking. It goes dark. We're like, what is going on? I found out later that that was when the towers came down. So finally, I get home, soaked, by the way, because I forgot to mention that the people that were downtown and close to the World Trade Center had been hosed down with something to neutralize the asbestos effect. Apparently, the World Trade Center was built with asbestos. And it was only when I watched TV that I understood the panic in my cousin's voice, that I recognized the horror, the unimaginable tragedy, and that I had been there and gotten out. So an incredible sense of gratitude, of relief. Even 20 odd years on, I probably have never fully processed what I went through that day. Seismic shifting, world altering. It is what it is. I lost my mother youngish. I was 24. And it was probably the most devastating experience of my life. She was my true north. She was steady. She was dependable. She was serious. She was hilarious in her own quirky way. She was my true north. I always imagined that she would be there to help me navigate adulting, marriage, kids, whatever. She was, I think, a little bit ahead of her time, if I can say so. She started out as a teacher in the village. And there are people who tell me they were so t-shirt because she'd like ride a bicycle to school. And she was a practical person. She made stuff. She had a thing for sewing. So while guys were wearing threads from Popin, we were the kids with the homemade clothes all the time. She made insecticide for killing cockroaches. She made yogurt. She made stuff. Maybe that's why there's a streak of DIY in me. She was diagnosed with cancer, but it was stage 2 cancer, and she was responding to chemo. I know this because I was calling her oncologist every week from New York. So things were going well. And then we're told that, there's some stubborn growths. We just need to do a textbook operation. Nothing to worry about. We'll be in, we'll be out, and she'll be home. She died on the operating table. Seismic shifting, core shaking, leaving a gaping hole. Now, I must say that I'm fortunate that I have a fairly close-knit family and friends that are family. And so there was no shortage of folks to step in and step up. And a particular person who became another true north for me was my godmother. She was my cousin, first cousin. And in fact, she always told me that she wondered why her aunt, my mom, had picked her to be my godmother, because she was fairly young when I was born. And she always believed that there were other older folks that were infinitely better qualified for the job. But my mom was clearly onto something. She became my oracle. She became the place I went to when I was grappling with complicated issues. She became the safe space I could go to unload and offload. Many, many, many conversations were had on her dining table, which is where she sat. Many tears were shed, tears of sadness and grief, tears of laughter. She was a big part of my kids' lives too. She always had Oreos on the ready lest I dropped by with them. She was vibrant and full of life. She was stylish in a way that only she could be. And then last year, she got sick. Suddenly, without warning, and she passed away. She was gone. Seismic shifting, core shaking. Loss is always difficult. I think loss of anchors is 10 times that. I'm fortunate that I've had people in my life that have been anchors for me. I still have conversations with them in my head, obviously, because, yes. But it is what it is. In the words of a great man who is no longer with us, and if you know, you know, and there's some people in this audience who do know, we press on. Thank you.